Hey there, everyone. I got a really, really special episode segment for everybody tonight. I've got a good friend and a good industry soldier, Doug Quinn, on with us tonight. Doug Quinn with the American Policyholder Association is very, very busy as always. Is actually just now he's traveling across the country. He probably travels more than most TSA people. He is fraud fighting on a few different fronts, and I captured him tonight for a very, very late night, my time, average time where he's at out on the West Coast. We are going to talk specifically about the momentum that was caused with the 60-minute segments that was run with spotlighting on some of the fraud that was and probably still is, certainly still is, being perpetrated by insurance carriers in Florida. This specifically 60 Minutes was about Ian. I'm going to put the link. I'm going to recommend everyone watch it and share it. And that has been happening. And that's what we want to talk about tonight. So Doug Quinn doesn't need a lot of introduction. I'm going to link to the APA, to their social media sites, to my interviews with Doug and at his events. So you're going to have all the information you need. Great human, Marine, father, loves animals, and loves my wife's fried catfish. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Doug in real quick. Hey, bud.
How we doing, Clark?
Good, good. Thank you for taking a few minutes. I want to address that the night that we're recording this, Doug, earlier today, missiles were flying from Iran into Israel. It looks like the damage was not terrible, but I want to talk about different missiles that were launched earlier this week besides the devastating hurricane that we have affecting so many millions of people right now. So wanted to get you on and give you a few minutes. You tell me when to shut it off. You've got a lot going on, and I know you're cutting back across the country, and you've got other humanitarian efforts that you need to attend to as in addition to APA. So tell me what the week has been like, the aftermath, the follow-up from the explosively great CBS 60 Minutes segment on Sunday.
It's, listen, this is just the beginning. We've been beating this drum for, 6 years now, but we know for a fact that these crimes, they go back to Hurricane Katrina. In Sandy, in 2012, when that happened, we actually had probably about 3 years later an actual arrest of an insurance carrier engineering firm executive from the same tactics, changing their reports, faking the facts in order to cheat people out of an honest claim. We've been aware that this has been going on in Florida. We've gotten many, many reports. We've had multiple whistleblowers. This is not our first criminal case. We've referred to the Florida authorities. But listen, it hits 60 Minutes, and I'll be honest with you, this all goes back to the groundbreaking work done by a Washington Post reporter by the name of Brianna Sachs, who everybody we've dealt with acknowledges nailed it. The 60 Minutes people, the Lester Holt people, the NBC and Fox, and everyone we've talked to has used that as their roadmap to what's gone on here. And I'll tell you, it doesn't happen on every insurance company. It doesn't happen in every claim, but trust me, it does happen. It's widespread, way more widespread than you actually believe, than most consumers can ever conceive of. I spent my whole adult life in the insurance industry, and I never, ever in a million years knew anything about these activities. But, it happens far too often, and we're just trying to make sure something is done about it. We know fraud happens on all sides of the insurance claim process. There's nobody that's immune to it. Unfortunately, it is only prosecuted to defend insurance companies. You will not see insurance executives in handcuffs, unless they got caught stealing from the insurance company. Those people will get arrested pretty quick. But the fact is that we're just saying fraud happens on all sides. We would just want it to be enforced against all sides. Consumers deserve to be defended as well.
When I got involved with the APA many years ago, and what year did you sit down with the group of the founding blueprint? Was that 2018 or 19? When did you sit down and ideate?
2018, a bunch of us that had sort of, been involved in the Sandy case, because the Sandy case was unique because there was a criminal arrest, and that changed everything. That one criminal arrest, listen, civil litigation, it may get justice for individual families, but it does not make market-wide change, and it is not a deterrent. People just think, my company has lawyers, that's what I'm hidden behind the corporate veil. I'll forge this report. It's no big deal. But when it comes to somebody actually getting put in handcuffs and arrested, that is a deterrent for future folks who would think about, I'm going to commit this crime in order to cheat the American family out of their most valuable asset. So we did that in Sandy. One criminal arrest. We were able to get 144,000 claims reopened, something to the tune of $350 million paid out to people who had been cheated. And about 5 years after that, a group of us got together and said, you know what, we should form an organization that just supports that. No more suing, and nothing against, civil attorneys, do what you got to do. But the fact is, the real path to market change, to deterrent, is for people to understand that if you commit this crime against an American family, against an American consumer, there will be consequences. You will be arrested, and you won't get away with it. And that is what we believe will keep future fraudsters from plying their trade against American families at their most valuable time.
Doug, I've been fortunate to be part of the APA as as a lowly, just a member. I mean, you have different levels, but everyone can enter where they need to and contribute what they want. But I've watched you present, and you kind of have a boilerplate with some modifications. You have a generalized, great encapsulating presentation that tells people it's not only the financial. You share, and I won't go into it here, but you share some appalling statistics about the mental health and the statistics of families that may never return to their home, the ends in divorce, mental illness, bankruptcy, children not finishing school, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there is a long line of trailing consequences to these things that no one, like you said, the problem is no one was talking about this before, but they are now. And I want to talk about this week, Doug. The APA, I'm a member, and I talk about it a lot. And I represent, as you know, the fire, water, mold restoration side. And it has been a little bit of a, just like, it's to get the message across about how this affects them. They kind of, there's some people in their mind thought this might be just for GCs and just for roofers. But we see fraud happen regardless of what segment or what phase you're in, and it affects all of us. And I will tell you this week, I've heard from people who I've known a long time that have never blinked when I talk about it. Now they're emailing, texting, messaging me on social media. Hey, did you see this? And I'm like, yeah, I saw that. Wasn't it great? And they're now like sharing it. And Doug, I don't know. I want to get a little bit from you, but I have been seeing people in Asheville, Boone, Spartanburg, Atlanta, down into Florida, Facebook neighborhood pages of consumers that are sharing this with each other and with eye-opening emojis saying, we need to be careful so that we don't end up like these examples. And I would like to say, stop here, Stephen Bush and everyone else that participated in this event. Stephen's not on the call tonight, but this is certainly not just Doug. It's not just Clark. There's an army of people who contribute in some meaningful way. Stephen did a great job of representing, and he sent it home. But I've been seeing people share this, and of course,
let me just break in there because it needs to be said before we get lost.
Yeah,
Stephen Bush is the absolute hero of this whole thing because of his honesty and his integrity. The whistleblowers who had faced him in court and were aware of him, faced him as being, representing the opposition, felt safe enough to go to him when they saw these crimes happening, and they wanted to stand up. And they are also the heroes and tell the truth, even though that comes with big consequences going against, one of the most powerful industries in America. However, Stephen, many attorneys would have just taken this civilly. They would have, they would have made it a class action suit. They would have cashed in and made a bunch of money. Fraud is uncovered in civil court all the time. But when the carriers are caught with the fraud, they settle immediately, and everybody has to sign confidentiality agreements, non-disclosure agreements, so they can't talk about it. In many cases, the insurers will pay extra to get those agreements. So nobody gets fired, nobody loses, nobody gets arrested. Everyone's in place to commit the same crime tomorrow. But hey, the attorneys made a little bit more money, and that particular plaintiff maybe made a little bit more money. But that's not the path to change. And Stephen Bush put himself second, and he put what's best for the American consumer and the American economy first. And he's an absolute hero for doing that. That's what we look for. We look for the people that have that integrity. They're going to put what's in the best interest of the consumer first.
Well, just like fraud, the bad people scurry away. So when you have an initiative like the APA, nonprofit, a lot of work, a lot of rolling up your sleeve, a lot of people that get in for the wrong reasons, they don't last because they say, well, this looks a lot like work. But when you realize that this is a long path, and I want to read something in a minute, but I want to say about Stephen, his integrity and his professionalism did show up. And it reminded me a little bit about the movie Troy, if you've ever seen that with Brad Pitt. Mm-hmm. In that movie, Brad Pitt, Achilles, kills Hector of Troy, and the father, the king, sneaks into the village or on his own beach and says, honor me with allowing me to, I'll always remember, I'll always say you will be who killed my son, but allow me to bury my son. It took honor for Achilles to give, I'm talking about a movie here, but it's hard to always be with integrity. And you've taught me a lot about integrity. It's always do things like someone's looking over your shoulder, or a regulatory committee or some type of regulation. And that's what you have done. That's what Stephen apparently did after having facing this. And I'd like to point out one more thing before we go. If you remember this whistleblower, that whistleblower is the adjuster that you're likely facing against in the job. He didn't do anything wrong. He was actually a party in this. The frontline adjuster, the independent adjuster in this one, he's acting on good faith, or what he believes is good faith. He's just part of a bigger system. He put in good numbers. He showed that. I'm going to put that clip in here. I want everybody to know that. So the fight is not with the person that you just assume might be a bad guy from association. There are good people trying to do good things for their communities. And this showcased that with the one whistleblower that's on there. So I want to make sure I spotlight Stephen, his efforts, and him treating that with such a soft hand, but fair but firm, right? And that's what he did. And he just let the facts speak for themselves, which is, I thought was brilliant. I've gotten, like I said, lots of texts, Doug, people, our industry's fired up about it, it's great. Now let's do something more. We even were talking before the recording. We talked about before the recording about even DeSantis has chimed in, hasn't he?
Mm-hmm. And look, this should just be the beginning, because we know this is not a one-off. And the fact is, we know there's a lot of decent, hardworking, honest people on the other, working for the carriers, but they're being pressured to do things that they know are unethical and in some cases illegal. And, we want to provide an avenue for them to come forward and tell their story, even if it's just confidentially. You don't always treat people as though they're enemies just because they might be on the other side of a business transaction from you. If everybody puts what's in the best interest of the consumer first, we can get this worked out. It is a pretty deep and pervasive problem, but we can certainly get it worked out. And yes, both the CFO Petronas and the Governor DeSantis weighed in today, and everyone who owns a keyboard or a smartphone on social media has found a way to weigh in. And some people from the opposition party in the Florida legislature have weighed in as well, calling for grand jury investigations and special legislative investigative bodies. And we expect to see more. Because again, this is a problem. This is sort of this boil that's been bubbling under the surface that we all have known is there, and now it's coming up and it's blowing up. And listen, this is the time where maybe if we handle it the right way, we can do something about it, and we can make sure this next batch of disaster survivors, right, who are just struggling to look at what's left of their life's work and their homes and their possessions now, don't have to go through what disaster survivors have gone through in the past, what I went through personally in the past. We make sure the buck sort of stops here and we fix it and we move forward, because, a solid, well-run insurance industry, a resilient insurance industry, is in all of our best interest. Insurance is such an important financial tool that helps the average American family handle a loss that would otherwise be catastrophic, right? That would otherwise set them back for generations. And we count on insurance as the safety net, and we're just looking for it to work the way all the commercials promise. And it's doable, but we have to really assess. There's something wrong here. It hasn't been addressed. It needs to be addressed. Let's fix it and move forward, because we've got tough times ahead.
And it takes strong people. It takes integrity-driven people. It takes people with grit, but also with fair and reasonable perceptions. Of I like to say the APA, we're not anti-insurance.
Yeah.
We're pro-consumer and we're anti-fraudulent insurers. But we're also, you and I both will be the first one to call out a contractor that was committing fraud. They don't belong in our industry, and we cannot point a finger at one place and ignore others. And this is where the accountability comes in. I'm really, really just excited about next. I know Brianna has been a great champion of the consumer. I really love that Brianna takes, because it's not easy for a mainstream media network to speak against those that are big advertisers. It takes a lot, but there may be something bigger at play.
Most of them will not. There's a lot of stories you will not see, because insurance is one of their biggest advertising supporters. And there's a lot of fear with, these big, powerful law firms, and, these media is not powerful the way it once was. They can get sued into non-existence. That's why when you see these stories, they've been vetted very carefully by the law departments, and there's a lot. And again, to Brianna Sachs's credit, she did phenomenal work, which I believe most reporters want to do, but she had the editorial support at the Washington Post to actually run it, and that's why we're here today.
Doug, can you give me a second to read something out? This is a shameless plug, maybe. I'm not really making money off books, but I wrote a book called 41 Markers. Get it on Amazon. But everything that I do, every interview, I try to find one of my markers. These are like guiding principles. And I'm looking for the one before we get on the call about what marker applies to this. And I was thinking about the journey. And my marker number 4 is slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And the story goes into, there's a lot of different military groups that claim to have taken that. It might have been Christopher Columbus that actually coined that. But it just talks about a plan. Having a plan and a strategy, and despite your emotions and despite the roadblocks and the distractions, you stay to the plan to some degree. You obviously could venture off. I go down here, and everything that is urgent is nothing. If everything's urgent, nothing's urgent. We've had a lot of times that you have shared with me that we could have made a big nuclear bomb out of something, but it wasn't time yet. It was a strategic move. And so I like that we still are serious about what the APA is doing. Everybody that's involved, from Morgan, Heather, you, all the Wood, John, and everybody. It's just, there's nobody involved that I wouldn't say that I would do. They're playing their part. We're following the lead. We're looking at the plan. Say, are we following it? So I wanted to mention that it's going to feel slow to some people, but last Sunday was a flicker of the potential of how we could change the narrative and the tides. And I'm excited about that. And I wanted to tell you that I would like to speak to my industry for just a moment. Restoration, fire, mitigation, emergency services, no different than the other side. A lot of our industry relies on insurance for the work that they do. They have companies that are built that are part of a managed repair program. They have employees that they have to feed, and overhead they have to cover, and partnerships that they have to serve. I get all that. But for too long, there have been blinders on to what we were watching to be fraudulent. It's certainly bad faith, but certainly encroaching into fraudulent in TPAs. And I'm wanting everyone to say, I hope this is a call to action to say, let's call fraud what it is. and partner with good people that don't do that. Because at the end of the day, if your end user, your consumer finds out that you didn't represent them and you supported fraudulent activity, you're not going to have much of a reputation. So that's my call to action to my partners. If anybody wants to reach out to me and ask what we're doing, or anybody on Doug's team will do that. But it really is, the whole industry needs to get off the sidelines and start doing that. Is there anything you want to say to that, Doug?
Yeah, listen, the APA is sort of this conglomeration of everybody who is here for the best interest of the American consumer. And that's really what it is. So there are a lot of people whose interests are aligned with the consumer. There are contractors and public adjusters and attorneys and engineers and appraisers. And we even heard from an insurance agent, who wanted to join today, and certainly come join. We know the insurance agents aren't the problem. They want those policies to pay just as much as you do, because they believe in it. But, and we have a whole bunch of consumers who are involved, and we should have people from the insurance industry side as well. Because getting the fraud out of insurance claims is beneficial to all of us. Again, having healthy, resilient insurance markets that have public confidence is important to all of us. So, it's not a matter of, you're in this job and I'm in that job and you work on this side, I work on that side. There's too much us and them. It should just be boiled down to, I believe in honesty. I believe in ethics. We believe in having healthy, resilient, honest insurance markets, benefits everybody and benefits our country. Let's all work together to get the fraudsters out. And by the way, we all know who they are. We can't have this sort of silence where we're not really outing the people that we know are fraudsters. And by the way, we've had some that were APA members. Nobody is excluded from this. There's no organization, there's no job title, there's nothing that says, even senators and judges and, the X amount of percentage of the American population will commit fraud for the right price. It's for a profit or to avoid a loss. And it doesn't matter what job title you're hiring for. So, those of us who are here for the right reasons need to really just join together. So, we'd like to see more people on board with the APA supporting what we do. We know there's been a lot of people sitting on the sideline. We know there's a lot of people that have been impatient. And in the realm of, consumer protection organizations, we're the new kid on the block. We're only 6 years old, and we're doing something that no one's ever done. There's never been an organization in American history dedicated to what we are doing. And so it's not like we can watch a YouTube video and figure out, how to run a hot dog stand. I could be a brain surgeon by, pulling up a YouTube video, and this doesn't exist. We're writing the book as we go along. That means it's not going to happen fast. And when you go against, this alignment of wealth and power, the insurance industry is the second most, powerful lobby in America. And, again, granted, there's a lot of people in leadership in the insurance industry who want to see healthy, honest, and integrity in the insurance industry. But we're trying to change something that's very deeply embedded, and it is backed by a lot of money and a lot of power, and it doesn't happen overnight. And the only thing we could say is we don't quit. We are here to fight for the benefit of the American consumer. We're not going away. We're not quitting. Come be a part of what we're doing, so that everybody can have a better life. Everybody can be truly protected when these disasters hit us.
Well, our mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters and kids are being the ones, treated to this fraud, and no one's immune to it. If you own a property or if you run a business, or this happens in other entities of insurance as well. But it's not a victimless crime. It's not a white collar crime. And just what you were talking about, it reminds me of Moneyball. The first one through the wall is the bloodiest. You're pioneering through some things, and you're going to shed some blood. You and I've talked about reputations that I've been targeted. You have. I'm a business coach, and there are franchises that tell their franchisees, don't touch Clark with the 10-foot pole, because our relationship with carriers is too important. It's hilarious, but it also empowers me. It enforces that we're on the right track. And but I'm like you. I want people to just stop wondering and just join. If later, if you find out this isn't for you, which has never really happened, I don't believe too much, just jump in and help us harness this power, this event that just happened, and let's do the next things. I don't want to say what they are, but you have shared some fraud in other national events that have happened, and I'm sure that down the road, I just would like to see us get to where we can prevent them. Because right now we're just attacking things on the backside with the whistleblowers. I'm glad we are, but if we can help make the insurance industry start knowing that there's a light on them, they'll be less likely, like you said, to act this way, and we can prevent some of these things. Now, I don't know what that's going to do to the economy. They're changing policy languages, but we could go on forever. It's incredible. What do you want everyone to know right away? So we join. And what about with what you're doing in Florida and stuff like that? Is there any that you want to talk about, or
come be a part of the team? There's a lot that goes on because we're investigating crimes that we cannot talk about. We certainly. So there's different degrees. There's a lot going on behind the scenes that we're working on. For our members, we do a quarterly newsletter. We can talk about some stuff there. We will have quarterly conference calls with all our members to update them on what's going on. And even then, there's certain things like I've been working on this 60 Minutes piece. We've been working with them for almost a year now. We shot this piece back in April. So I couldn't tell people this, get ready, because this is getting ready to blow up. We've got things building behind the scenes, and that's what it is. Building momentum, building it up. The more people we have on the team, the better chance we have of defending the American consumer. And the reality of it is, just because you're not necessarily hearing from us doesn't mean we're doing nothing. We're doing quite a lot behind the scenes, but we can't talk about it. We can't show our cards to the fraudsters. Right. We don't want them to have deleting parties and start burying evidence and, coaching witnesses, or threatening witnesses, which is also a thing that happens. So
I think you guys definitely show the value. I'm on all the quarterly calls. I don't know if you have room left, but you're having a member summit next month. It may be full, but if you joined now, you might. Unless you tell me otherwise, we can cut this out. Is there space left for attendees to join in Nashville to the summit?
There is space, and if there's not space, we will make space. It's an open tent. It's free for all of our members to come. We do an annual summit that we do, and it's just a way for us to sit down to, again, update people what's going on, but also get our members' feedback from how do we do better on this. You have to remember with the APA, we put a couple of pieces in place in the very beginning to make sure that we have integrity and there's no conflict of interest. One is we don't refer out business. So I have, consumers call me and say, hey, can you give me a good, can you refer me to an attorney or a public adjuster, or contractor, engineer, et cetera? I'm sorry, I cannot. There's this weird little paradox. Hey, we recommend you hire an APA member, but I can't tell you who any of them are because we don't want it to be a referral club. The other piece we put into place is you cannot be an executive or on our board of directors if you're involved in the claims business. You cannot, if you're making money in claims, you can't be in my job. So there can be no conflict of interest. There can be no profit motive. It can't be, people are just doing things to make more money or get cases for themselves or, we do it. But because of that, I don't know what's going on in the field. I'm not in the field. It is our members who are the ones that are in the trenches and they're the ones that witness the crime and they're the ones that bring the referrals to us to investigate. And look, we have in place, one of the top, it is the only SIU special investigation unit. It's called the APA Consumer Protection Unit. The only SIU in the country that defends consumers. All the other SIUs work for insurance companies. Nothing wrong with that. People try to cheat insurance companies every day. They have every right to defend themselves, and they should, because that also impacts all of us. all fraud is wrong, but we've built an SIU that basically is, amongst the top fraud investigators in the country. When our members come to this and say, hey, we think this is fraud, they'll investigate. And more often than not, most cases, they're like, no, it's not fraud. This is bad faith. This is a civil tort. Which we have nothing to do. We don't get involved in that at all. Or maybe there are times when we know, yes, this is fraud. It looks like it, but we don't have enough proof to bring it to a prosecutor.
Yeah. All the burdens of proof still apply to this. Doug, I'll tell you what I have gotten a lot from the APA, and that's whether it be from the events or trade shows or whatever. But it's when you get a group of people that are passionate about something like this, that are aligned. I've made a lot of great friends from Crystal to Stephen Bush to, John and Don Wood. I mean, just so many to name. Is that any community, you're looking for a tribe, and this has become a tribe that I very much feel aligned with. And I think that only strengthens, because we're always asking you or others, and you ask, what can we do? Like how can we serve? And you have some initiatives that some people are perfect at, and volunteer group is leaning into whatever, it's social media or whatever. But I just love the unity of the community, and I really want to invite people to join us in this, and let us take this nucleus of a bomb and keep running with it, because there's more to do. This wasn't our final chapter. This was maybe the forward, maybe the introduction. But I would want to remind people that if you have time, I think it's October in Nashville, you can join and get there, listen to Doug, listen to the members, voice your opinions, voice your initiatives. It might turn into something, and I think it really be rewarding for people that always say, how can I help stop my consumers? Somebody in Louisville, Kentucky, how can I stop this? This is how you stop that. This is one way. And I recommend we stop talking about it and start doing it. And Doug has a great, what's our saying? JFK quote.
If not us, who? And if not now, when? And there's another great quote by a rabbi called Hillel the Elder, who says, if I don't fight for myself, who will fight for me? If I only fight for myself, who am I? And if not now, when? And that's sort of, it's literally on the walls. We have two big sayings at the APA. One is, if not us, who? If not now, when? It is a JFK quote. And then the other one is, suck it up, Buttercup. This is a tough thing to do. To wake up every day and fight this fight is tough. And we understand that, you have businesses and you have families and you have things you're involved in, and you don't have the ability. I know you want to do something about it, but you don't have the ability to dedicate your life to fighting this. We've dedicated our lives to fighting this. So, come be on board the team, and it doesn't have to be all your battle. I'm perfectly comfortable charging that hill alone. I will absolutely do it. But certainly the more people we have behind us, and Clark, you're one of them, you're a huge source of support, moral, financial, otherwise, and I really appreciate it. But again, the more people we have behind us, the more successful we will be. We get this cleared up and we all move on.
We all have friends and family that have houses, and they could be the very victims that were on 60 Minutes, and it could be their lives. It could have been our lives turned upside down if we didn't know better. It's not a victimless crime. What I tell people a lot, Doug, and I'll end on this, is I love the if not us, who, if not a win. But if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. The lethargy in advocacy is complicit to some degree. And I think everyone, if you know something and you didn't do or say something, you're kind of part of that. So I would say this is a chance. No, I haven't met anyone that's ever had regret and said, this is exactly what I hoped it would be, and let's go. And so that's what I hear most. And I just want to encourage anyone that has ever trusted much of what I've said, contact me. I would not be doing this if I didn't believe in it. But Doug, I took a lot of your time tonight. You are a brother. You are a leader. You show with effort. And I think this is you and Heather and your team are a big reason that this many years later, it looks like your first day and you've got all the energy in the world. So I hope you can keep it. We're here to participate and to push. So I look forward to the next 60 Minutes and the next Anderson Cooper, the next Joe Rogan podcast where he's talking about it. That would be great. Let's get on Joe Rogan and have him expose this thing. But you have any parting words? But we said it all. I'm going to put the links. I'm going to put my contact like I always do. If you want to reach out to me and say, what is this you're talking about? Blah, blah, blah. Great. Phone call. So I hope to see you soon in Nashville at our summit, and look forward to our next battle.
Great, Clark. Really appreciate your support. And thank you for giving us the venue here today.
Keep it going, man. Keep it going. Take care.
All right. Good night now.